anchors away for the Middle East. Canada commits to helping reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Count us in with the war in the Middle East during the 3-week mark. And with global energy prices skyrocketing because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, Canada will have some role to play in trying to help get traffic through that waterway again. Yesterday, the Prime Minister's office issued a statement along with the leaders of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Japan. In that statement, it says Canada is ready to contribute, quote, appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. It goes on to say that the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz is being felt by people all over the world, especially the most vulnerable. So what does that mean? Well, all week, Canada's Minister of National Defence, David McGuinty, has been ruling out any combat role for the Canadian forces in this war, but he has been suggesting that if other countries asked for help, Canada would be there.
Iran has not been exactly the best actor in the space. They haven't been exactly the best actor with respect to their own people, particularly women. And in the region, they've been fostering terrorism and they've been seeding discord for a long time, at least 40 years. I want to be clear. Canada was not consulted in the decision to prosecute this war. Canada has not participated in this war, and Canada is not participating in this war. I said yesterday we remain open to the possibility to be of assistance to neighboring states. We're monitoring that hour by hour, day by day. But it is a very, very difficult situation right now.
All week, U.S. President Donald Trump has been no countries for not answering his call for help with the problems in the strait. Just yesterday, while sitting next to the leader of Japan, he said other countries rely on the Strait of Hormuz more than the United States.
I mean, we've demolished, that country is close to demolished. The only thing is the strait. It's very hard. You could take two people and they could drop little bombs in the water and they're holding things up. We don't want that to happen. But honestly, Japan, China, Europe, parts of Europe, get a lot of their oil through the strait. We get none, practically. We're less than 1%. We don't have to be any percent. We don't even, I think we do it just to be nice. But we think of it, we don't use the strait. We're defending the strait for everybody else. And then in the case of NATO, they don't want to help us defend the strait, and they're the ones that need it. But now they're getting much nicer because they're seeing my attitude. They're getting much nicer. But it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's too late.
One of the first leaders to rebuff Trump's request for help with the Strait of Hormuz was the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. But this morning, his office released a video on social media explaining why the Strait of Hormuz is so vital and why it needs to be reopened.
The Strait of Hormuz is a really important shipping lane. The Gulf states access, well, the rest of the world, and a lot of oil and gas comes through the Straits. Iran is stopping shipping getting through the Straits. That is having an impact on oil and gas prices. We need to get the Straits back open as quickly as possible. We've been talking, particularly in recent days, to our allies about this, the US, European partners, to Gulf states. Whilst the Straits are not in full operation, the price of oil and gas goes up, and I know that then affects everybody at home. We cut energy bills about £117 averagely for households, and we are going to cap that. We are capping that to the end of June. In the meantime, we will do everything we can to de-escalate the situation in the Gulf, because that is the best way to deal with the impact on the cost of living.
The Secretary General of NATO is Mark Rutte. He expressed support for both the United States and Israel in their war against Iran and said all NATO countries have agreed that the strait just can't remain closed.
First of all, in my contacts with allies all over NATO territory, what I'm sensing and hearing is that we all agree, as we always did, that it was crucial for Iran not to get its hands on a nuclear capability, a ballistic missile capability, and What the US is doing at the moment is degrading that capability of Iran. And I think that's very important. This is important for European security, for the Middle East. It is vital for Israel itself. A nuclear Iran would potentially have been a direct threat to the future of Israel, but again, to the whole Middle East and to Europe. Then when it comes to the Hormuz Strait, everybody agrees. This strait cannot stay closed. It has to open up again as soon as possible. This is crucial for world economy.
Just 2 days ago, the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, ruled out having France participate in any action in the strait, but now he has signed this joint statement, but he says he wants to see a ceasefire first.
We have called for the immediate implementation of a moratorium on strikes targeting civilian infrastructure, particularly energy and water facilities. Indeed, the civilian populations, their essential needs, as well as the security of energy supplies, must be safeguarded from any escalation. I reiterated that once the situation calms down, France was ready, along with other nations, to take responsibility for a system of escorting ships in the strait, as part of a mission that is not intended to be an act of force and will need to involve exchanges and deconfliction with Iran. This involves engaging all actors in the maritime sector, both carriers and insurers. However, we will not participate in any forcible opening of the strait in the context of ongoing war operations and bombings.
It's not clear what action these countries, including Canada, will take to open the strait or what kind of naval deployment there could be at this moment. The International Maritime Organization, which is a UN agency, has called for the creation of a safe maritime corridor, but hasn't said how it would be formed. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Well, he's our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, offices in Ottawa and Washington. Barry teaches at the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute and at Cape Breton University's Shannon School of Business. You can follow him on his Substack, listen to his podcast, and he's with us every Friday. Welcome back.
And always, thank you, and always happy to be here.
Well, Pierre Poilievre was Joe Rogan's guest on the Joe Rogan Experience. Why is that big news?
Well, it's the first time that he has ventured south to share his views on a very wide range of hypersensitive subjects, including cross-border tariffs, Donald Trump, and on and on. And, he really had to have a solid foot there. It could have blown up in his face. And we'll get into our comments, but I think he did a very fine job.
Yeah, plus what you would call earned media. Barry, explain that.
Yeah, it means that far more than the number who actually watched it on YouTube or listened to it on audio, more will be exposed to it through news reports of it. Programming such as yours and news stories on radio, television, print, and elsewhere will mention it, cover it, quote it, and therefore he'll have earned far more media coverage than the originating event or initiative.
Yeah. So let's talk about how he did, and let's play some highlights. I would note, when I checked this morning in preparation for our broadcast today, in less than 24 hours on YouTube, this interview has 1.3 million views in less than 24 hours. So, that goes to the reach of it.
Yeah.
But he was asked about Trump and the 51st state. So let's listen to that clip.
There's a narrative in America, and the narrative is that you were about to win and your party was about to win, but then Trump came along and said he was going to turn Canada into the 51st state, and everybody went crazy. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say they went crazy. I mean, it was.
They got very upset.
They should be upset, though. I mean,
well, it's a crazy thing to say.
It is a crazy thing to say. Canada's not for sale. We're never going to be the 51st state. We love Americans as neighbors and friends, but we want to be uniquely and we want to be sovereign as Canadians. It's our country. It's where we grow up. You're a patriot as an American. I'm a patriot as a Canadian. It's where my grandfather arrived. It's where our collective ancestors put on military uniforms and sailed to fight wars. It's where our grandkids are going to live. We're very proudly Canadian. So we're never going to be the 51st state. And I just wish he'd knock that shit off so that we can get back to talking about the things that we can do as two separate countries that are actually friends.
What'd you think of that?
I think he had two elbows up. He had one more elbow up there than Mark Carney. I mean, knock that shit off. Wow, we haven't heard him do that, or any leading politician north of the border say that. So very strong. Made it clear. It's one of his goals, obviously, was he needed to plant a strong Canadian flag there that we're not going to be pushed around and bullied and all that other stuff. And it's a lot of BS. He did a really, really good job of that in every way, but yet still came out with a positive. And if we do this, then we will have this very wonderful economic, flow and so on. So he did a really good job of the way he dealt with that.
Okay. They also talked about tariffs. Let's listen to that.
The best-selling truck in America for 45 years now is the Ford Series. It's aluminum. It's a military-grade aluminum body. You guys can't make enough aluminum here. You don't have enough bauxite or electricity to convert it into alumina and aluminum. You get your aluminum from us. A tariff does not bring the production to America. It raises the price of the aluminum and therefore the F-Series truck. Get rid of that tariff. You lower taxes. You lower the cost of an F-Series truck for the miner in Appalachia or the electrician in Ohio.
Yeah, he cited several examples. The Ford F-Series trucks being just one. How did he do on that?
Really well, because I don't think that message has got across. This is costing the American consumer, right down to the farm. These tariffs are really hitting the American consumers. And he did that in a way without sounding partisan. He had this kind of a realistic approach that he was taking, very fact-based. Also, his tone of voice. It's true that YouTube is playing this, but so are all the other, platforms for podcasts. And according to the research out of UCLA, 84% of the believed message on radio or audio is based on your tone of voice. And only 16% of the believed message is what you're saying. So it's tone of voice. If you just listen to it there, as we're doing now, you're getting a more three-dimensional, warmer. Even when he's being tough, he's not being harsh and mean. He's got the right tone, and it works just listening to him, let alone watching it.
He was given several opportunities to attack the prime minister, to attack the Liberals, and he sidestepped those. And we're going to talk about that when we return with Barry McLoughlin as we offer our own review of Pierre Poilievre with Joe Rogan. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
He's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski is back with us. He's the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob.
The federal government announced this week it is going to appeal the decision from the lower courts that ruled that the government's use of the Emergencies Act to end the Freedom Convoy was unconstitutional. Why don't we revisit why that might be a problem for the Chief Justice Wagner? I have some audio here. This goes back to June of 2022. The Chief Justice would usually does a year in review for the Supreme Court, and this would have been a few months after the use of the Emergencies Act to end that protest. In French, he called the Freedom Convoy deplorable, said it should never happen again, and this is what he said in English.
The environment has changed, no doubt about that, and you can only look, not only in Canada, but elsewhere and very close to us, in a country very close to us. in a so-called democracy, where surprising events occurred also in January of following the election. So in Canada, I think we have a good democracy. We have a stable democracy, but still, we should not ignore some events that could create some problems for us as well, and we should not, undermine the efforts to increase the security. The events in Ottawa last January have shown that it could be a problem. Let's hope that it will be referred to as an anecdote in our history.
Now, not as harsh as what he said in French when he said it was deplorable and should never happen again. He made similar remarks to a Quebec news outlet. This, you would think, is problematic, Tom.
It's catastrophic. The man should resign, in my opinion. What was worse was, note the timing of those remarks. That's June of 2022. What was worse was an interview he gave. This was an interview. This was not a gotcha moment. He wanted the world to know he disapproved of these peaceful protesters. Gave an April 9th, 2022 interview to Le Devoir, Quebec Daily. What did he say? What we saw on Wellington Street, now that's the street right outside the Supreme Court House, you know that, Rob. What we saw on Wellington Street here was the beginning of anarchy, where certain people decided to take other citizens hostage to take the law into their own hands, end of quote. Problem. By the time that the judge is making these remarks, he knows nobody has been charged with anarchy, violent sedition, or the taking the law into their own hands. They were not charged with hostage taking. They were charged with double parking and mischief, which is a nothing charge. And he knew that. And he had to have known that this was it was a statutory requirement. There was going to be a judicial inquiry. He had to have known that. And he had to have known, whatever the outcome, there was every chance that this anarchy was going to wind up in his courtroom. And so now he has put himself and other liberal appointees on the court that are a majority into this position where if they rule for the protesters in upholding what every other lower court has said, then we are presuming that we have a Chief Justice who once in a while loses his mind and gives provocative and saucy interviews to reporters that he likes. If they rule against the protesters, the fix was in. That's untenable.
The fix was in. Yeah, you can't have that. You can't have that. And there are appeals underway for him to recuse himself. He should have had the foresight to know that a protest like this and the use of that legislation for the first time ever since it replaced the War Measures Act, he should have had the foresight to know that civil liberties groups were going to challenge it and that it would eventually make its way to the highest court in the land. And how he did not understand that or appreciate that is totally beyond me. It's a problem.
Absolutely. But you know, people have asked, Rob, people have said, what was he thinking? Why would he do that? And you were there in Ottawa at the time. The answer is very simple, but this would not be obvious to anyone who wasn't in Ottawa. Amongst the aristocracy in Lumbertown, it was the thing to do, and I include some of my friends in media, it was the thing to do to announce that you disapproved of those protesters. That's what the cool kids were doing. And that's why the Chief Justice did that. He couldn't stand the thought that someone might think he had any libertarian impulses or did not strongly, morally disapprove of truckers honking their horns outside his office. He wanted people to know.
I mean, you and I were on the air together at that time, covering that when I was doing morning radio in Ottawa. I did a special broadcast the night the Freedom Convoy rolled into town on our radio station in Ottawa. I had people from the Ottawa area who were calling in from overpasses as the Freedom Convoy was rolling into town, saying, I'd never felt more proud to be Canadian. But you're right. There was this certain segment of the Ottawa population, the downtown progressive liberal crowd in the expensive townhomes and condo towers who would also call us, we've got to call in the army. And we've got to get these rubes out of here. And that's the divide that exists to this day, Tom, when it comes to the Freedom Convoy. And it's unfortunate, I think, that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court 4 years ago decided to pick sides.
Oh, it's a
Tragic.
You couldn't get away with that if you're a municipal court judge, let alone the Chief Justice of a G7 country. I don't know what options he thinks he has now, but he has compromised himself and his court. And Cabinet doesn't want to comment on this. The only out for the Supreme Court is not to take the case. And think about that they would not take one of the most fundamental tests of constitutional freedoms and lawlessness by a federal cabinet because the judge wanted to shoot his mouth off to a Quebec newspaper reporter.
Yeah, we'll be right back with Tom Korski, managing editor, Blacklock's reporter. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Returns with Tom Korski, managing editor at Blacklock's reporter, for news you can use at tax time. If you're in the charity business, no more faxes for the CRA. You can't send, it's unbelievable. You can't send a fax to the CRA. Tom, tell me more.
It is incredible, isn't it? Faster, higher, stronger, the Canada Revenue Agency. How often do they get a gold star? They are the first federal office to pull the plug on their fax machine. Many people are unaware. Well, I would think the vast majority of people would be unaware. The Prime Minister's office, of all places, still runs a fax machine. But CRA has said enough is enough. For charitable filings, you're going to have to figure out email or have to send a PDF. Ask the kids if you're not sure.
2026, they're paving the way for the government. They are displaying progress. No more fax machine. No more fax machine at the CRA. Isn't that something? Now, this is really interesting. There was a report this week. There are drop boxes all across the country. You can drop them off with your tax documents and your payments. There are like 45 of them across the country, and they're doing away with those, Tom, after this year.
They are, and they have tried. They would desperately love to do this. In fact, it was under Stephen Harper. They tried to get rid of telephone tax filing, which was a service that was very popular with seniors. So popular, in fact, when Liberals won in 2015, they brought it back. But there's the Holy Grail. This is not blasphemous. The Holy Grail for the Canada Revenue Agency is to eliminate all paper filing. All paper. They want to stop it. And they want to stop sending tax refund checks. They want everyone to file electronically and go for direct deposit. And you would be interested to know, Rob, in their own internal surveys, they have found it's about a fifth of Canadians, a quarter to a fifth, who have said, no way in hell am I giving my bank account information to the revenue agency. So they're chasing that dream.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I used to use, when I was a much younger man, I lived in downtown Ottawa. I would do my taxes the old-fashioned way, and there was a drop box right at downtown Ottawa. Very convenient, and you emptied out every now and then, and you would get your return quite prompt. And it's still used by 430,000 people, which is incredible to me. But they're getting rid of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
27 million tax filers, that's right.
Yeah, okay. The top of the public service food chain in Ottawa is the Privy Council office. Now, we know that the government wants to, trim the fat and eliminate tens of thousands of public sector workers. But it doesn't appear that that's going to happen at the Privy Council office. What's going on there?
You're right. They set the tone from the top in so many ways. The Prime Minister said he was going to cut waste. He said that we have to make sacrifices. This is not a game, he said. We really mean business this time. Unfortunately, they filed budget documents. These are called main estimates, is a series of documents, main estimates. And the Privy Council departmental plan in their main estimates indicates that the Prime Minister's Privy Council will spend more than his predecessor's Privy Council spent in 2024. The last full year under Trudeau was $251.7 million, and under Carney it will be $252.3 million. So it did not go down. It's about the same.
Oh.
And of course, this is after the bonus boys at the Privy Council office paid themselves, which pretty much like 96% of executives at the Privy Council got a bonus last year.
Yeah. 1,300 employees. I was shocked that it was that large, actually, the Privy Council office. Big department now. Now, work from home. Ottawa public servants love to work from home. There's a cost to that. You would think it would save the taxpayers money to have the public servants working from home, but apparently not, Tom.
Well, it's a good thing you have to be sitting down for this one. It's a bit of a shock. You think, how is it possible? But the Treasury Board came up when under pandemic lockdowns, and then this continues to this day on work from home and safe distancing and the rest of it. They sent over 250,000 federal public employees home, but they didn't send them home empty-handed. They have spent, to this day, an average of over $4 million a year, supplying home offices for employees with office chairs and desks, laptops and printers, printer cartridges. You need ink.
Oh, yes.
And other
Need
office
ink.
supplies, in some cases, the internet dial-up fees, over $4 million a year, while at the same time they had empty office buildings. They were heating and cooling and cleaning and shoveling the snow. They came up, Rob, with the most expensive option coming and going.
Yeah, isn't that something? Okay, if you'll stick around, we'll be right back with Tom Korski. A couple of doozy stories here about government travel when we return. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Tom Korski has been generous with his time, working overtime for us today from Blacklock's reporter. So we have this thing called the Net Zero Advisory Board. What the heck is that, you ask? Well, this is what it says it is. We are mandated to provide the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change with independent advice on the most likely pathways for Canada to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 and to advise on the setting of interim emission reduction targets on the pathway to net zero emissions for Canada by the year 2050. It's been around since the year 2022. And the members like to do some traveling from time to time. Tom, what do you know about that?
And how? Flew to Brazil, and they flew to Sharm el-Sheikh, which is a handsome resort in Egypt. I've never been, but I know the hotel they stayed at. It has a disco lounge, and there's lots of swimming pools. It's like Hollywood movie stars and swimming pools. They flew all around. They flew right across the country. They had the travel expenses of $183,000. Why is that anyone's business? Well, they issued a report in 2022, and it was nicknamed the Bold Vision Report. What did it say? Canada needs action driven by a bold vision, end of quote. What did they recommend? They said, you in your motor vehicle, you reduce the number of single-passenger trips in motorized vehicles. You prioritize walking or cycling. You ban municipal parking so car drivers really get the message for the slow learners. And you will restrict the sale of natural gas furnaces, you Canadian people, while they're flying to Sharm el-Sheikh to hit the disco lounge and the greenhouse gas emission conference. Classic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Travel expenses of $183,000. They're not staying at the Motel 6 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Let me tell you that right now.
No, that's
suckers. You suckers. Net zero. Okay. We do have a Marxist-Leninist party in Canada. It's March break time for people all across the country. Where do the commies want us to spend our March break?
They are petitioning the Foreign Affairs Committee to recommend that Parliament encourage Canadians to holiday in Cuba. This is the moment of crisis, And Cuba, as you know, Rob, is heavily reliant on tourism and Canadian tourism in particular to help meet those foreign cash reserves. They don't have practical advice. They don't say, for instance, bring a lifeboat and a flashlight, what with the food shortages and power blackouts. But this is Cuba's moment of need.
Sure thing. And I mean, if you've never been in a 1950s era Chevrolet, it's always a novelty for a lot of people. No, I don't think Cuba's high on anyone's, unfortunately, Cuba's just going through difficult times right now, not high on a lot of people's travel itineraries right now. But I'm sure the Marxist-Leninist Party will organize a tour if you're interested. Great to hear from you this week, Tom Korski, as always, and we'll catch up next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporter. He's with us every Friday. And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, now you know with Rob Snow, great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. You can listen live. You can listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And now you know with Rob Snow is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. The Friday Free-for-All Talkback is coming up next. We're wide open on topics, and our phone lines are open right now at 1-833-668-2577. And as soon as you call, I'll put you right on the air, and you can lead the discussion today. Love to hear from you. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today is the Friday Free-for-All. We don't come up with topics on Fridays. We have a few ready to go, but we always prefer that you take the lead. We want to know what's on your mind. So what's on your mind today? Everyone? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, I mean, there is always news. And it was an overdose of news this week. Lots of news this week. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, you feel free to raise it here, whatever it happens to be. Okay? Can be serious, be not so serious. We have a phone line for you. All of our phone lines are open right now. It's 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And as always, if you've never called before, just mention that and we'll make your call a priority. Just for a conversation starter, let's try this one out, because I think one of the big stories of the day is that Canada, along with many other countries, are going to do something to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to be part of it. We're answering the call. So let's start right there. What do you think of that decision? Prime Minister Carney, along with the leaders of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Japan, released a statement yesterday. I have it here in front of me. This is what it says, quote, "We express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. We welcome the commitment of nations who are engaging in preparatory planning." And quote, "The effects of Iran's actions will be felt by people in all parts of the world, especially the most vulnerable." And Mark Carney has signed this statement. "We express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait." We debated this earlier this week, but then it was just hypothetical. It was just what if. Now it's moving closer to reality, everyone. So now that it is moving closer to reality, we need to ask you what you think of this decision. We were saying all week, listen to what the Minister of National Defense is saying. Everywhere he goes, he is saying, we didn't start the war. It's not our war. We're not joining the war. But, other countries might need our help, and we're open to talking about that. We all know that the loudest voice in the room on the need to reopen the Strait of Hormuz has been Donald Trump. He's been slamming NATO and a few other countries for days, as recently as yesterday, for not doing anything to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And now it seems as though Canada is going to become part of a coalition that will try to do just that. What do you think of that decision? Is this the right decision for Canada or the wrong decision for Canada? To be part of a coalition that is getting ready to, quote, contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. Right decision, wrong decision, agree with the decision, disagree with it? 1-833-668-2577. Phone lines available right now. Pierre Poilievre all over the news today because a lot of the Canadian news media and a lot of Canadians apparently decided to watch or listen to the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday. Pierre Poilievre was the guest. I listened to it on Spotify while I was out with the dog yesterday, all 2 hours and 23 minutes of it. Although I fast forwarded through most of the parts where they were talking about UFC because I'm really not interested in UFC, but that's just me. But there are plenty of news stories about it today. 6 takeaways from Poilievre on Rogan, 8 highlights from Poilievre on Rogan, 9 key moments from Poilievre on Rogan. You get the idea. A lot of people in the news media were listening. They were taking notes. And as of this morning on YouTube, that episode of that podcast has more than 1.3 million views. 1.3 million views. So a lot of people took it in. If you were one of them, I'd like to know what you thought of it. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available. It's a Friday free-for-all talkback. Let's get things started. Let's go to Dave. Is in Halifax right now. Hello, Dave.
Yes, I'm with you. I watched the whole podcast, Joe Rogan and Poilievre. I thought it went rather well. I think for 2 hours and 20 plus minutes, I think you were saying, there was not a lot of dead space there. They had a lot to talk about. I'm kind of with you on the UFC thing. They talked a lot about martial arts and our fighter here, UFC, Pierre St. George. I think it went really well, and I think it was a real boost for Pierre Poilievre, in my opinion. Of course, you're going to get the other side that's going to say, well, what is he doing down there in the U.S. marketing himself? Well, you know what? You just said it, 1.3 million, and that's climbing, by the way. I thought it went really well. Okay. It's not really
what did you like about it?
If you don't mind.
Well, what did you like about it? Just quickly.
I think Poilievre made himself look very likable, and he did not venture into the politics. I know Joe was needling Pierre Poilievre to sort of say, what do you think of the government at the current time? And he was not a fan of Trudeau, I could tell you that. That's Joe Rogan, or the way Canada was going. And I think it made it reflected very well for him as a person. And he didn't get into anything on foreign soil to talk badly about Carney. In fact, he said, we're going to work together. He claimed that he is the opposition, remember. He is the prosecutor, if you will. As he said, they are prosecutors in a sense, as the critics, as the opposition. He explained to Joe about how our politics run, which is quite different from the United States. I thought it was really good. I think 2 thumbs up for the, in my opinion. You're going to get other.
What else did you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about where's our prime minister. I was just looking how many days he's been away traveling, and I think it's up to 68 days. I just did a little bit of homework here, Rob, and now I think he's going on holiday, and lo and behold, he's going back to Europe on holiday. He's going to go to Italy, I believe. Now, again, I can't confirm this, but I think it is quite known that he is going to go to Italy and the UK once again, and a lot of travel for that man.
Well, I think he's back. I think he's back next week. He's had a busy year. You'll grant him that. Running for the leadership, running in the election, jumping right into it. I mean, all of that has been in the last, 12 or 13 months. He's taking a little March break, but I believe he'll be back next week because the House of Commons will be back in action next week. Canadians will want to hear, I'm with you, from the Prime Minister, gas prices being what they are, the state of the economy being what it is, and the situation in the world. So they'll have to hear from their prime minister, and soon. I would agree with you, Dave. Off and running, Friday free-for-all talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Sean in Cambridge is up next on the Friday free-for-all. Sean, what's on your mind today?
Good afternoon. Yeah, I was just looking at the headline where Trump calls NATO allies cowards for not helping open Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, he's a man who's always willing to risk somebody else's life, isn't he? I mean, wow. You know, President Bone Spurs, that's sort of ironic considering his father got him out of Vietnam. And he's never served in military service. And as somebody pointed out, to clear the Strait of Hormuz, you would have to put boots on the ground to flush out all the launchers on the coast of Iran. Sending ships in there is like fish in a barrel. He just doesn't understand military strategy. Like
something is afoot here. Something is afoot here, Sean. I read you the quote. We express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passes through the strait. We welcome the commitment of nations who are engaging in preparatory planning. Signed by the Right Honorable Mark Carney. What do you think of that?
I would like to know what he's actually planning on doing, because we don't have the ships to do that. Do we have minesweepers?
Don't have minesweepers, no. We have a dozen frigates and 4 submarines, and 1 submarine works, and maybe half of our frigates are seaworthy. I'm not sure about those. They've gone through extensive retrofits. So,
and the only way you can take out drones and missiles is you have to fly. You have to take them out with helicopters or aircraft. They'd be hard to knock down with the frigates. Like, all we have is frigates, so I'm not sure what they're planning on doing. I don't know if we have any Aegis systems which could knock down drones. But like I said, you're talking helicopters or jets. It's just sort of you're going to have to put boots on the ground in Iran to flush out the missile and drone sites. Simple as that. So anybody who thinks you can just somehow put a magic shield is dreaming.
So do you want to know more specifics from the Prime Minister then on what exactly our role is going to be? Because he has committed us to something here.
Well, that's a tough one, because if he's telling us, he's also telling the Iranians, quite frankly. So maybe not. I don't know. You know what I mean?
You don't think we should be part of it at all?
No,
France, the UK, Germany, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, they're all signed up for this now.
I think they're just mollifying the big orange baby, quite honestly. The only way you can open the strait is you're going to have to go into Iran and flush out the sites on the ground so they can't shoot. Simple as that. They don't.
All right, Sean. Thank you. I got you, Sean. Got you, Sean. Thank you. Garrett in Kitchener is up next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Garrett. Hi, Garrett. Are you there? Wakey, wakey, Garrett. Okay, let's move along. Jim is in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Jim.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Jim. Thank you. What's on your mind?
I'd like to weigh in. I think we should send 2 ships over to the Gulf to help clear the straits. I was in the Navy back in the 90s when we sent 3 over when Kuwait was invaded, and this is more important than Kuwait's liberation in terms of world economics, and I think we should do our part.
All right, Jim. So because you're right there in Dartmouth, probably with a view of the harbor, home of our largest Navy base, and you're in the Navy, what do we have to send? What do you know about that? What can we do?
Well, we have frigates that could go over, and they'd just be part of a coalition. They wouldn't be the only 2 ships there providing defense and interdiction to seaborne craft and aerial threats. We'd be part of a multitude of ships, and you're just one of many guards of this channel to go through. The threat from the Iranians is any Joe hiding behind a mountain can launch a
a wire guided drone like they do in Ukraine. So you have to be vigilant for everything. And you're just one of many contributing to it. And we should do our part, definitely.
Should do our part. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. In Jim in Dartmouth. 1-833-668-2577. So there you go. We should go. No, we shouldn't go. It's Trump's war. We didn't start it. No, we have a role to play. What's your view? The statement from the Prime Minister's office is we, meaning us, express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. We welcome the commitments of nations engaging in preparatory planning. It's in the planning, folks. Have your say. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Keith in Nova Scotia up next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Keith.
Hello. How are you today, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Keith. What do you want to talk about?
Just making comments, I guess a couple things. I guess the first one was the possibility that Canada may get involved in opening up the Strait of Hormuz in some way, shape, or form. I don't think anything really concrete has come about yet. My thought on that, I guess, is I think that we were to do something like to assess and opening up the strait. I think we would make ourselves more of an enemy than we are now with Iran. That's my thought on that. It's possibly
right.
they're even talking. Well, I think I read something this morning that the Iranian military has made a statement saying it's not going to be safe anywhere in the world now. Did you hear that?
But there is a news report that one of their top military commanders, whoever's left in those roles these days, they're open to targeting recreation facilities, tourist sites in other parts of the world. Yeah, that's one of the news stories in the mix today.
I think that's a pretty serious thing.
Soft targets.
Yeah, soft targets, or I guess whatever you want to call them. If you take a human life, it doesn't matter what's soft or what it is critical. So, yeah, I think that's going to be possibly an issue more so now than it was before. The Polyev thing, I only watched about 14 or 15 minutes of that Rogan interview he did there, and it seemed like Polyev came across pretty good. He was pretty calm, cool, well thought answers, and Rogan was trying to pick at him to say something that that maybe would be defamatory against Carney, but
critical.
He didn't go for it.
Critical. I wouldn't say defamatory, but critical.
Well,
yeah, he tried to get him to.
Yeah. Somewhere
I
along
wouldn't
the
say
lines of
defamatory.
not nice.
Not nice, yeah.
I think he kind of handled that pretty well. But my thoughts are with: is he going to, if he were to be elected prime minister, just say if, would he maintain that sort of persona, or would he go on a different road?
Hard to say.
So, yeah.
Hard
so
to
that's
say.
my thoughts on those.
Okay. I guess it all depends. Has he learned lessons from what must have been, when you think about it, a crushing defeat, just personally for him last year, to be what looked like months away from becoming the next prime minister of Canada, but then to be overtaken by a brand new political environment with a brand new threat in those comments from Donald Trump and his action on trade and tariffs and 51st state, and no Trudeau to punch around anymore. And instead, you're not up against the most unpopular liberal leader in perhaps the modern history of the Liberal Party, but you're up against a brand new face and someone with a glowing resume. Had to be a humbling experience for him. Is he a changed man? Time will tell. More of your calls just ahead on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Open line, open topic today. Friday, Free-for-All Talkback. Love to hear from you. 2 lines, 3 lines available there. Wait won't be too long. James is a first-time caller. Let's go to him. He's in Cambridge today. Hello, James.
Hi, how are you today?
Very good, James. How are you?
Good. In regards to Canada helping out the United States, getting the oil to flow again through the Straits, I think we could or should help out with conditions. You don't talk any more crap about annexing Canada, and you knock off the tariffs. And I'm sure these negotiations are going through. I'm sure Canada's playing hardball, and yes, we should probably help get the oil going through again because it's going to help everyone out economically and price-wise. But I think it's an opportunity here that Trump's got himself into this mess. We'll help you out, but here's the conditions. We don't want to hear about annexing, becoming a state, and knock off the tariffs, and let's go.
All right. You try to leverage it into a more advantageous position for us. Help us up economically and, cut it off with the 51st state stuff. Fair enough.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know if that's part of the deal.
Well, I got to think
you're open to having our Navy or whatever other military assets might be helpful in this situation to get that traffic flowing again.
Well, I think whatever capacity we could be helping in, we could. We are being forced into larger gas prices, and we're in a situation that something has to be done. And if we can help in any way, he got him into this mess, but we'll come in, but we want some conditions met.
Some conditions. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. You make an excellent point, James. Thank you. Rick in Dartmouth. Hello, Rick.
Hi, Rob. Look,
Hi, Rick.
What do you think that any of the so-called willing can do for the Strait of Hormuz that the American Navy can't do, which is, 10 times stronger than any other Navy in the world? So there's absolutely nothing they can do. If they could, they would have sailed 2 aircraft carriers up in and, done their stuff that they would have done with them. But they're not. One aircraft carrier is headed back to the United States, and the other one is 700 kilometers offshore. So there is no viable way for any Navy, including Canada's, to penetrate the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, from what I understand, the need, if you'll permit me, I believe, is for some naval minesweeping equipment, which the U.S. lacks, but the U.K. has. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, right. Well, the moment you go into the Strait of Hormuz, you get blown out of the water. If you're that's all the Iranian missile silos are in the mountains that are overlooking the Strait of Hormuz. Just got to have a look at the actual geography.
All right.
But the point I'm trying to make is that Trump has asked for this help so he can go, hey, look, we've got other help. Okay, that's the only reason he's asked for it. He doesn't need it. If he did, then he's admitting that the U.S. Navy is weaker than he's claimed it to be. And I'm just going to make one prediction that Iran's demands are that all U.S. bases are removed from the Gulf. Right? That's Iran's demand. Of course, Trump's demand is that Iran unconditionally surrenders. So those are not movable objects, in my view. And the people I follow, been following this for a long time, and they say Iran outnumbers the missile defense systems by about, 20 or 30 to 1. So, and you know what the Fatah, F-A-T-T-A-H, missiles are. They're hypersonic missiles that have a re-entry profile that changes. Okay, they're actually, you can steer them when they come in. So there's nothing that Israel or the United States has that can stop those missiles. And if the mainstream media, our media, would be reporting what's actually happening, then we'd know that. But of course, we won't.
Okay, well, I can't speak for the on
No, I know
behalf
you
of the
can't. I
entire
know you
mainstream media. But let me ask you this then: why do you think the leaders of all of these countries issued this statement yesterday?
Just to kiss Donald Trump's ass. That's all.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's nothing they can do, Rob. Take my word for it. Anyway, I'll let you go to some other calls.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Why don't we stop here? And Ronan in Kitchener, you hang on the line. There's another Rick in Dartmouth who wants to get on the line. Maybe he'll say something different and have an opposing view of the first Rick we just spoke to. Or if you want to go an entirely different direction with a brand new topic, you start a brand new conversation, we're open to that as well, because it's the Friday free-for-all. That's how we roll during the weekend, everyone. At 1-833-668-2577, this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Ronan in Kitchener up next on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Hi, Ronan.
Hi, Rob, again. I had to call again.
That's okay.
Bear with me a minute, please. I am in 100% agreement with your last caller, Rick. I'd like to add something. I've been in the field of risk management, strategy analysis for over 30 years of my life. I'm an expert in the field, just like you may be an expert in the art of talk radio. The CPA is an expert, an engineer is an expert in their field. It's disturbing to me that I have friends who value their opinions on the matter of us getting involved in the Iran-American-U.S. conflict as much as they value my own. They value their opinions the same as mine. You know, it was somewhere around 3,500 years ago that Socrates and Plato both argued that democracy had a significant flaw. And just to be quick with this, that flaw is that everybody has an equal vote. The person with a grade 1 education has the same value in their vote as the one with a university education who is 55 years of age, so that 18-year-old with no education has the same vote. So I argue that my opinion is a little different than somebody else's and people like mine. Here's the problem.
Fair enough.
All these people who believe that we should get involved in the Strait of Hormuz or in the Iran-America-Israel conflict do not have an understanding of the situation. If their children were in the military presently, I'd like to know if they would speak the same way. Whether we're discussing the Fatah 1 or the Fatah 2, as the last caller called, or drone warfare, or the concept of what the Strait of Hormuz is and why U.S. carriers are 800 plus kilometers away from their actual AO, all these things are material to the discussion, yet these people all pretend that they have a valid opinion when they say that, oh yeah, we can add to the American Navy. You can't add to the American Navy. We have nothing of use. The American Navy is by far the most powerful Navy on the planet, with China a close second, a very close second. We have nothing. The EU, NATO, the European Union, no country on this planet other than China and Russia have anything significant to add to the fight. And even if China or Russia added their military, there's zero chance of them adding their military to the equation, zero. Even if they added, it would be massive, massive loss of manpower from the United States side
All right.
should they try to solidify.
So if I could,
please.
We express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. Signed by all of these world leaders that I mentioned, including our prime minister. Why are they issuing such statements then?
Here's a very quick answer. There are two types of communications in the political world. And again, I have over 30 years of experience. Please, there are those statements that are intended for the internal consumption of the country that they represent, and then there are those statements which are intended for the external absorption of the rest of the world. Then there are statements that fall into one of those categories that are honest and sincere, that are meant to convey their honest and sincere intentions, and then there are statements that are intended for political digestion. Mark my words, and I will call your radio program again. Those are statements from countries from a political perspective, not from the perspective of actual intentions. When I call your radio program back in a week or 2 or 3, you will see that none of those countries have sent military forces in with an intention to engage Iran or any of its proxies. 0 of those countries will send their forces because they will be destroyed.
Okay.
Like
Will the strait be open? Okay. Will the strait be open in 3 weeks?
It will not be. Again, I'm willing to bet money on this. The strait will not be open if we're saying that the strait being open means that goods, mainly oil and gas, travel freely. The strait is presently open, people. Oil is flowing from Iran to China and possibly somewhere else, but we know that it's going to China. The Americas, you can, folks, do some research.
Look,
it is flowing from Iran.
I've done some research. I'm reading some stories that would dispute what you're saying, just what's happening in global energy markets. But I'll have to run. I appreciate it. You call me back. You call me back tomorrow. Call me back Monday. Call me back in 2 weeks. Call me every day. Rick in Dartmouth up next. Rick.
Yeah, how you doing, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm not like the other Rick. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, and there's a cure for that. It's called turn off the TV for him. Okay? And as far as your last caller, in risk management, really? He's not going to manage my risk, because I'm going to tell you something. The problem with the Strait of Hormuz has been going on now for 49 years. They've threatened everything going through there, so that's why the insurance was so high. And finally, if the U.S. didn't move on this, they were just building up a missile capability to deter them from a nuclear capability, or launching that capability. And guess who we are? We are the infidel, and they would have sent a nuclear bomb on us. So all these people that are all against Donald Trump need their head examined. Like, really, where are they coming from?
But should we be sending? We are now indicating that we're committed to doing something to, quote, ensure safe passage through the strait. What do you think about that decision? Because the prime minister has signed on to that. What do you think about that?
I think it's finally about time that he did the proper thing. We need to help them. We need to get oil flowing. And I mean, he's caused a problem in this country, the Liberals have, by not allowing oil to flow here for 12 years, and now he's signed it off for another 15. So he's got to do something to save face.
Save face. Okay, thank you. Be right back. And Javier say it's hour number 1 of Talkback. It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Jeff is in Cambridge, Ontario, on the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, very good, Jeff. What's on your mind today?
I'd like to talk about New World Order and
World Order.
Old World Order, in which we're in right now, supposedly. Our Prime Minister in China said that the partnership between Canada and China positions them well for this New World Order. And then again, January 20th, in his Switzerland speech, he stated that old world order is not coming back.
Now, in my opinion, world order is United States petrodollars. And petrodollars brings in oil money into the U.S. banks, give or take $1 trillion a year. And that was slowly disappearing because of New World Order, which China was soaking out of Iran cheaply through their dollars, which would be the Chinese yen. United States can't afford that.
Yeah. Okay. So
what's your point? My opinion is, I don't want to say this, but I'm not political. Like one political party is just as good as the other. But when you start saying things that hurt your country, that's not right, especially when you're a prime minister. And when he mentioned the two, New World Order and Old World Order, he put Canada in the basket going down.
I see. So you view this, just so I understand it, okay? And if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, by all means, correct me. You view this old world order as being, with the United States at the center of it. You see this new world order with China being at the center of it. And you're not happy with Mr. Carney because he seems to prefer this new world order in which China is the leader. Am I following you here?
You follow me, right?
Okay.
I have
understand
problems sometimes trying to. This one's a biggie for me because it's one of those things where I don't want to say something that is kind of, obviously it's my opinion, but still.
Yes. Sure. Okay.
But it's a lot of money going through. Like after World War II, U.S. came in. They made money during the war and after World War II in rebuilding Europe. Their banks were already in the means of working with the Europe countries. Then when the oil started popping out of the ground in the early 70s, they were there with their banks. So the money, it only made sense to get that oil money through the American banks.
All right. Now you've lost me, so I'm not sure where you're going with that. And I think we'll wrap up our conversation there. But I do understand what you're saying, because there are people who have expressed this concern before. Are we moving? When you listen to some of the statements that Mr. Carney has made and his trip to China, signing a deal with China, eliminating the tariffs on Chinese-made EVs, are we drifting too far away from a traditional relationship that we've had with the United States and getting too cozy with this emerging power in China? It's a legitimate concern. We can pick up on anything you want to talk about in hour number 2 of Talkback. That's just ahead after the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. It is the Friday free-for-all Talkback. So we're wide open on topics if you want to pick a topic. We're willing to hear you out. Now, here's something I want to throw out. Usually in this hour, the final hour of Talkback, we would get a lot of calls from Calgary. No calls from Calgary yet so far today. That's curious. This is going to be a big story in Calgary next week. So maybe I can just kind of whet your appetite on it. Find out why this is such a big issue. Zoning rules for housing. It's an issue all across the country. It's not just a Calgary thing. It's a Kitchener thing. It's a Halifax thing. It's a nationwide thing. Doesn't matter what city it is. It's always controversial. The federal government wants to build a lot more housing. And fast. It has this target, 500,000 new housing units a year. It's running ads on television, on social media. 500,000 housing units a year. New, bold, fast housing strategy. Housing starts are nowhere close to that. Now we're on pace for about half that, 250,000 for the year, because the housing construction market in many parts of the country is weak, especially in Toronto. The condo market there is basically crashed. That's the big problem in Toronto. But as part of the federal government's efforts to encourage home building, it has dangled all kinds of money in front of municipalities like Calgary. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. But in order to qualify for that funding, the municipalities have to change their zoning rules to allow for a lot more housing to be built on building lots that used to be zoned for single-family homes. And some people think that's great because it means more housing supply. More housing supply, you would think, would make houses more affordable. Some people, though, really, really hate it. And there are a lot of those people in Calgary for many reasons. Too much noise, too much traffic, not enough parking. It changes the nature of mature neighborhoods. Some people don't like it when their quiet residential street that has traditionally been lined with single-family homes for decades and decades becomes inundated with triplexes and fourplexes and sixplexes. In the recent municipal election in Calgary, for example, I mean, this was one of the big issues, this blanket rezoning debate, because the former mayor of that city, and along with the council, passed that citywide. Citywide, you can have a fourplex on any building lot. And the person who won the last election in that city, the new mayor, Jeremy Farkas, vowed to appeal that. And that public meeting is coming up next week. It's going to be on Monday. It lasts for days and days. And I'm told it's going to be hot, hot, hot. But as I say, it's not just a Calgary thing. You know, they've been through this in Halifax as well, where zoning laws have changed, allowing a lot more multi-residential construction to happen in neighborhoods where there used to just be a single-family home. And there was the same kind of pushback. You know, if you lived in a single-family home on a nice quiet street for a long time, and on either side of you and across the street, there's been nothing but more single-family homes, and now there are lots of rows of fourplexes, people don't like that. They say it spoils the character of their neighborhoods. When local officials speak up about things like this, they hear it from the federal government, all kinds of warning. Well, you're going to lose all the funding that we promised you. And as I said, it's hundreds of millions of dollars, okay, for cash-strapped cities. When they did this in Kitchener, at the behest of the Ford government that passed zoning rules, they passed it as of right, which means you can't do anything about it. Opponents, you know, if you're opposed to a development in your neighborhood, you can't do anything because it's as of right development. You can't challenge it at a city committee or at a city council. You can't go to the land tribunal, whatever. No hearings, no votes, nothing. This kind of zoning, I mean, whatever you want to call it, it's called all kinds of things like blanket rezoning, missing middle housing, gentle density. It's called a lot of things. Does it make sense everywhere? Or does it cause problems that may be unforeseen problems? What do you think about that? This is going to be a big news story next week. We have a housing affordability crisis. We have a housing supply problem. This is one of the ideas governments at all levels have come up with to deal with it. Density. Lots and lots of fourplexes, nanny suites, laneway homes, where there used to be single-family homes. But how's it working out? If you have ideas on that, there's going to be a big debate in Calgary next week about this. I'd love to start the debate right now. On that or anything else for that matter, because it is the Friday free-for-all. You can start a conversation of your own. That's how we like to roll into the weekend around here. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line, okay? 1-833-668-2577. And again, as always, a special appeal to first-time callers. If you've never called us before, we'll put you at the front of the line. I'm Rob Snow. It's hour number 2 of the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is a Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Love to hear from you today. At 1-833-668-2577. Pick a topic. We'll roll with it. Conrad in Calgary. Hello, Conrad.
Hi there. How's it going?
Yeah, very good, Conrad. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, you were talking about the rezoning in Calgary, and I sort of wanted to throw my 2 cents in there.
By all means.
I think that I'm a young person working full-time in Calgary, and sort of the idea of getting a home seems very, very far away. It's something sort of I'm dreaming of, but it feels very out of reach. So I think the rezoning is a good way to try to close that gap.
All right.
That being said, it has to be implemented really smartly, because traffic is a big issue. And I think that you need to add it with the infrastructure to support better commuting and much better public transit in Calgary. Because, for example, if you don't live near a C-train station, getting the bus to get there adds an hour each way to your public transit.
Fair enough.
So if we're making a lot more homes in Calgary, I think it's really important that we have the supportive infrastructure to make sure it doesn't get too crowded as well.
But I guess what I want to get at is, in your city, the last city council passed what was known as blanket rezoning. It was for the entire city. Your new mayor, and this was part of his election campaigns, it doesn't make sense everywhere. And he supports, density and intensification, but only where it makes sense. Do you think it was a mistake to do it, say, citywide, or should it be more concentrated than that? Maybe around public transit stations, for example, that kind of thing.
I think citywide is an issue if the city also is not willing to build and update the other infrastructure for bikes, for walking lanes, and for public transit. Yeah. So if they're not willing to do that,
it's not just the I would say it's not just the infrastructure that you see, but it's the infrastructure that you don't see, all the stuff that's under the ground, right? You're having water woes right now in Calgary, right? I hope you're being a water hero, Conrad. But, you think about this. This is one of the concerns that always comes up in this push to build this gentle density. Let's say, okay, you had one house there, one house there, one house there, 3 families there. Well, now you've got, say you have 16 families or 21 families, and they all need to take showers, and they're all flushing the toilet. And this has a strain on the municipal infrastructure. You have to make investments in that as well. And who's going to pay for all that?
Absolutely. And without the commitment to develop the infrastructure strongly alongside it, I can't get in line with full city zoning. As much as I want to be able to, the dream of owning a house.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you've got us off to a good start on that topic. You raised some interesting points. Let's go to Al. He's also out there. Hello, Al.
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
Yeah, very good, Al. What's on your mind?
Yeah, great. So I got a couple of thoughts on the rezoning. One, it's wide rezoning. I don't think is a viable option. We've seen what they're throwing into some of these communities. They're trying to throw 7 and 8 unit apartments into what used to be a single lot residence, right? Where a house gets knocked down and all of a sudden you got 8 units packed in there on streets where there's no parking, there's no facilities to accommodate it. That's been a disaster. And you're right.
Why has it been a disaster? If I could, why has it been a disaster?
Oh, there's streets that are completely blocked off. We've had fire trucks not being able to get into places because they got too many. If you got 6 or 7 units added to a very tight street with no parking or no on-site parking, now these guys are parking in streets. Fire trucks, ambulances haven't been able to get through, things like that. So those have been issues. And then, as your previous caller referenced, and you referenced, infrastructure isn't keeping up, can't keep up to the kind of development that they're looking for. And then the third point I'd like to make is that a lot of these developments, like I drive around the city all the time and I'm seeing these things, they're talking about trying to increase affordability, but who are they increasing affordability for? a lot of these units that they're building, they're $700,000-$800,000 units. These are
right.
They're
luxury units.
Who's buying that? I'm in the demographic. I own my own home. I'm lucky enough. I was able to buy a home 10, 15 years ago that I could afford in the sub $400,000 mark. But anybody who's coming into the market now, they're giving up an eye tooth and their firstborn to buy a house, especially for these ones that they're putting in. The only people that actually benefit from this are the property developers, because they buy a $400,000 property, knock it down, put 4 or 5 units on it, or 4 to 6 units on it at $800,000 a piece. The city property taxes go up, or their city property revenue goes up. The developer makes money, but the homeowners themselves don't win because there's no affordability there.
Right. So it's not lowering prices for someone like Conrad, who is hoping that density and intensification will mean, an affordable starter home for him in one of these 4-plexes or 6-plexes or whatever, because they're every bit as expensive as most of the other housing in Calgary.
Exactly. Yeah, you're knocking down a 475. Just to use my neighborhood for an example, you're knocking down a $475,000 house, and you're putting in 4 houses at $800,000. Who does that help?
Right. Who does that help? Yeah. Such a great point. Thank you so much. I'm glad you raised that. 1-833-668-2577. It's not just a Calgary thing. Density, intensification. I mean, this is one of the debates that is happening at city councils across the country. We need more housing units per building lot. We need taller buildings. We need to remove height restrictions. And where there used to be a single family home, maybe in post-war 3-bedroom bungalow, we need to put a triplex there, a 4-plex there, a 6-plex there. We need more intensification. We need more housing density, and we need it everywhere. How do you feel about that? And to the caller's point, does it really make housing more affordable for young people? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Shane in Calgary is up next. Hello, Shane. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Rob. How are you today?
Yeah, very good, Shane. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, I was going to bring up something with the housing and zoning stuff, but the last 2 callers really nailed it, so I'd have to say that I don't really have much of an opinion on those, since they've already been spoken. Do want to say thank you very much, and I really enjoy listening to your show every day. You guys rock it. You're number 2 in comparison to Danielle Smith. Sorry, I listened to her for years. She's always been my favorite person on the radio.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough. But, I don't mind taking the silver medal if the premier gets the gold medal, I suppose. All right. Fair enough.
It was a lot of years of listening to her and agreeing with so many of her opinions, So, but I do have one thing to say as far as it comes to the population of what's happening with all of this rezoning, is that we're already running into enough issues as far as how healthcare can't keep up, the education system can't keep up. So all of this rezoning is going to create another issue as far as packing high population into areas that were never designed to have that. And those systems, whether it be doctors or schools or any of the infrastructure, is not going to be able to keep up when you keep packing so many people into an area that's never designed for it. Right? So,
yes, and I think the government is starting to recognize that. And I mean, the federal government, which controls immigration. The latest population numbers came out this week, and the population went down a little bit for the first time in decades. So they're reining things in with immigration. They realized the previous government really messed up with immigration.
Yeah, and they're finally starting to actually work on some of these deportations and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know what? I don't have an issue. I love new people coming in. I have a lot of great friends who are new to the country. What I do want is I just want to make sure that everybody that's here, you and myself, all across this country, are all happy and able to actually make a living and have the Canadian dream.
Yeah, and have a place to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly that. So, well, thank you very much. I'm going to continue listening, and you have yourself an excellent weekend, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your kind words, Shane. First day of spring. And in these parts, the snowplow just came by. So it's been kind of a rough start for the first day of spring. 5 to 10 centimeters of snow in these parts. But look, we'll take a quick break here, and then we'll kind of reset things. Popular topics today. Well, you have the rezoning issue, a Calgary issue, but also a nationwide issue. Because no matter where you live in the country, municipal officials are finding themselves debating density and allowing more density, encouraging more density. Where we had single family homes, we need fourplexes, sixplexes on individual building lots, but it creates a lot of friction within these communities, and it sparks a lot of debate. And as well, the Strait of Hormuz story. And Prime Minister Mark Carney, along with many other world leaders, saying we are going to do what we can to try and get traffic moving again through the Strait of Hormuz. That's been a hot topic today on Talkback as well. We'll be right back with more of your calls after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
In the home stretch of the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Open line, open topic today. And yes, here with an open mind. Marianne in Nova Scotia. Thanks for the call today.
Hi, I'm calling about CRA's desire to get rid of drop boxes and paper returns and paper checks. I believe that when a government requires a person to do a thing, such as paying taxes and filing a tax return, then there should be minimal costs and minimal complications for the person to comply. There are many reasons why a person would find it expensive and difficult to file and pay electronically. If you're poor, the expenses of a computer, a smartphone, and an internet connection could be out of reach. If you've never used a computer, you may not have your own internet access or the skills to use the free government software. If you don't drive, you may not be able to get to a free tax clinic, and free tax clinics are only for the simplest returns anyway. So for people in all these situations, I think it isn't fair to take away a paper return and paper checks that can be filled out at home with nothing more than a pen and mailed by placing them in an envelope in your own mailbox. And I also think mailing a tax return ought to be free. So those are my thoughts on the matter.
All right. I think they're great points all around. You'll get no disagreement from me, Marianne. And thank you for that. Specifically, there was a report, it was a Canadian Press report earlier in the week, these drop boxes, CRA drop boxes. There are a few dozen of them still around. They're not used nearly as much as they used to be with the growing popularity and insistence from the government, to Marianne's point, that everyone file electronically. But there are still, I believe the number was, 53 of them in the country, still used by almost 500,000 people. But this will be the final tax year that people will be able to use those drop boxes. They're getting rid of them. Pat is in Kitchener today. Hello, Pat. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, anytime. How are you?
Very good, Pat. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks. I disagree with some of your callers on the housing matter. I don't think that there is a way to decrease the cost of housing in the short term. And so, yes, developers are going to have to be incentivized to actually build homes for profit. And this oversupply of housing is the thing that's going to, in the medium term, 5-10 years, decrease the price of housing because of an oversupply, or at the very least, keep housing prices constant while salaries and wages increase. And so it's a difficult problem to solve, but not incentivizing developers is not a way to solve this problem.
Okay. Maybe there are other ways to solve the problem other than so much density that it upsets what I would say is community cohesion. Mr. Poilievre would use the term gatekeepers for example, speeding up the permitting process where it can take years. I mean, 2 years to jump through planning hoops is not unusual at all. Study after study after study, environmental studies, engineering studies, shadow studies, all of it costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, costs that are added, of course, to the entire process of home building and then passed along to the eventual homeowner. Maybe concentrate on that, streamline this process, speed it up. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, no, I agree with all those. But at the same time, what I've noticed is that from the callers calling into the show, the ones that already have houses are generally the ones that are against the the incentives for the developers and to kind of crowd in housing, and the ones that don't have houses are the ones that would almost try anything because they want to get in the housing market and they're open to a lot of different suggestions. And so I agree with everything that you said, but at the same time, I think we should try a variety of different approaches, not just that.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Thoughtful as always. Ivan in Calgary. Hello, Ivan.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Ivan.
I would like also to comment on the housing. So my point is that we probably going on to after a wrong issue here. So our cities, we need to build more. We need to build more affordable places, and the affordable place those are apartments, but somehow in Canada, apartments are not cheap either. So when we are building these ugly townhouses, like for example, my friend recently had a surgery on her knee, and she lives in a townhouse. She owns it. She's not renting, but they had to move her bed into the kitchen so she could stay close to the kitchen and toilet, and because she cannot walk the stairs. So with the addition of many of these units that they're building, 4plexes, 5plexes, 10plexes on a single lot, they are building this without elevators, without any accommodations for the people with the mobility issues. So my point is that we need to replace the single detached houses with the apartment buildings, but we need to build them with the elevators. And of course, the shoebox size apartments of 600, 500 square feet per one apartment is not a solution because it's impossible to live even for one person. It's impossible to live there like for a long period of time. It's just only for short-term rental, and we have a lot of this apartments. We need to build like close 900 or 1,000 square feet per apartment.
Okay.
And
right.
Everything that is offered on the market, I will finish. Everything that is offered on the market right now is luxury in this, like if you're looking of this size of apartment, it's only luxury. There's no budget apartments of 900 square feet or higher. So that is a problem. And one more short point. It's the elevator companies. They are mafia. We have only 4 companies in Canada that are serving.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'll take your word for it. That's the first time I've heard that. We have an elevator cartel. Okay. I mean, I've heard of the dairy cartel, I suppose. Maybe we have an elevator cartel. Who knows? I don't know. What do I know about elevators? Thank you. That was a twist I wasn't expecting. Friday Free for All Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
To Calgary once more. Jeff is there. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Rob.
Yes, Jeff. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
There you go. I don't know if you heard in Calgary, but a lot of, off topic now, a lot of people are, pedestrians are getting hit in crosswalks. And I don't understand it. And it doesn't make sense to me because, and what I haven't heard the police or anybody warn people, make eye contact with the driver. That's all I wanted to say. Make eye contact when you're walking out there. Now, I don't know if it's distracted driving or what it is, but most of them are in the crosswalks, and it just boggles my mind. When I'm walking out in traffic, I make eye contact. All right, watch the traffic. People push the button. People push the button and think it's going to save them. It just boggles my mind that people are getting killed and hurt and everything. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, you have said it, and you have said it well. Yes, thank you, Jeff. Good to hear from you today. Catherine in Ottawa, my old stomping grounds. Catherine.
Hey, hi. I wanted to talk about gas prices and the government. I mean, they haven't reduced the taxes that are on gas. That would be something easy that they can do to address cost. And as we know, as the price of gas comes up, they collect more taxes from it, and it seeps into everything. And I'm so frustrated with Carney. He's going to come out and say it's not his fault, it's a global problem, but he never looks into solution he can apply in Canada to help us out. He's really useless to me. I really don't like him.
All right.
So that's what I wanted to say.
I would not expect, because you're right, so, many of these gas prices, they will be windfalls for the government with some of these gas prices. And you look at the state of the finances of the federal government. First of all, what's the size of its deficit? $75-80 billion. We've just come through budget season for all the provincial governments. They've all posted huge deficits.
I know, but
coast to coast,
they're trying to address. If they say they're trying to address the cost of everything, that's something that can be addressed fairly quickly and give us a little relief. I mean, it's tax season.
Sure
I'm
enough.
so discouraged with how much taxes that they're collecting, and then to think that this crisis they're going to take more money out of my pocket. I'm really, So that's what I wanted.
Well, maybe Mr. Carney will explain it to us when he returns from his vacation. Thank you so much for your call. Well, yeah, he'll say he'll blame it on geopolitical events, right? He'll say it's not a Canadian problem. It's a global problem. You're right. But it is a global problem. I would direct you, thank you for your call, just a couple of news stories, if you'll permit me. I want to put this in your ear. Think about this over the weekend, okay? There's a story in today's Wall Street Journal that says the Saudis have been working on projections about how high the oil price could go. And the dollar figure in the Wall Street Journal today is $180 a barrel because of this war and what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz. That for Brent crude, not WTI. WTI would be a little bit lower. But for Brent, you're looking at a 65% increase in the price of oil from where it is now. And it's already up 50% in just the last 3 weeks. Imagine the consequences for the economy, what that would do to the price of gas, what that would do to the price of food, what it would mean for inflation and interest rates. Not good. Not good. Great for the budget deficit in Alberta. That's gone. But that's pretty much where it would begin and end, I think. That's one story that's in the news today. The prospect of oil prices hitting $180 US a barrel, sending the economy into a tailspin. And then there's a story in the Telegraph today out of the UK from that paper's top economics reporter, Ambrose Evans Pritchard. He is reporting today that if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed for the next 10 weeks, you will see, and I'm quoting here, a full-blown economic emergency for Europe, the UK, Japan, South Korea, and South Asia. At these prices, he says, and we already see this figure in the news, $180 a barrel forecast. He says that's already happening in what's known as the spot market. Right? So crude oil trades on a futures market, right? About buying barrels of oil sometime in the future, next month, next year. The futures price, that's the price you hear in the news all the time. It's about $98 a barrel now. but there's also a spot market. And spot prices are, well, what's the price of oil today? If I need to buy 1 million barrels of oil today, what's the price for that? They call that the spot price. And he says, get a load of this. Spot oil prices in markets like Dubai and Oman are already at $170 a barrel. And in places like Rotterdam and Singapore, they're already $210 to $240 a barrel. And the fear is, as supply tightens because of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, that spread, or the difference between the futures price and the spot price, that's going to narrow. And the futures price will rise to the spot price. That's in the Telegraph today. Jeff Curry, oil veteran at the Carlyle Group, says the Russia shock of 2022 was a picnic compared to what is happening now. The world will hit a brick wall within 2 months. We will need to ground planes, shut chemical plants, and accept lower crop yields. The nonchalance is compared to the misjudgment of January 2020, when Westerners watched the COVID lockdown in China and carried on as if the virus had nothing to do with them. That's cheery news, isn't it? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
And just a few minutes left here. Hickey is up next. Hickey's in Calgary. Hello, Hickey.
Hey, Rob, just wanted to talk real quick about the housing. Lots of stuff great that you're chatting about. Number one, we also have a lot of oil in Alberta. If anybody needs any at $180 a barrel, I sure hope we everyone everywhere, because I think that would help the economy in Canada dramatically. Just want to talk about the housing market, though, a little bit, and just say, you know, in places like Toronto, where these developers are having a hard time selling the condos, it's because right now interest rates are still high. You know, our stress test is at 6.5%. So based on that, a lot of these first-time homebuyers still can't afford to buy the condos because they're going through a stress test, number one, and the developers are having a hard time selling these things. And number two, you had it on your show, I think it was on Monday, you know, the guy talking about the 25-year mortgages through the insurance. Right?
Companies.
Stuff like that makes so much more sense. Hey, we're going to have a mortgage rate for 10 or 15 years, then we don't need to stress test it. And in places where the markets are really suffering and we're having a hard time, most of my clients pay more money in rent than they do in a mortgage payment.
Oh, sure.
But they can't qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The stress test is so
because
high,
of the stress test.
It just doesn't make sense.
So that stress test is still there, and what is it? It's 2%, right? 2% above.
2% over. So right now it's 6.5% is the stress test.
Right. And the stress is so. It's crazy. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe there was a time when it made sense, but I'm with you, Hickey. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And you have people who have proven that they can pay because they're paying way more in rent than they would be if they were in a long-term mortgage payment. But the stress test prices them out. It's such a great point that you make. That's going to be a big story on Monday, especially in Calgary. But as I say, it's not just a Calgary story, just housing density intensification. I think that's all the time we're going to have for today. Oh, one more call. Dave is in Calgary. If you can say it in 45 seconds, Dave, I'll take your call. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Rob. Okay, I'll try to
Dave.
make it quick. I'm first-time caller. I'm just responding to this blanket rezoning, and I just think that, there's a big problem with urban sprawl in Calgary. I was born here. I've seen it. And, I mean, if you look at the density in our city, we're just so spread out, and we're just trying to build an LRT station now that's going right across the city. This building new schools when we have existing schools and people are bused to them. I just think that the blanket rezoning is a great idea. And,
great idea. Okay, it comes with its own problems. Water, wastewater infrastructure. Can your core handle the growth? Where does everyone park? You have 4 families, 8 cars, maybe even more than that. Dream scenario for local bylaw officers. Noise. Don't get me started about the noise.